Hi. So this is Real Talk with Salwa. This is our continuation of our episode that we were our topic that we were just talking about on current affairs, and we were talking about the President's State of the Nation address. I was talking about the ministerial, the president advising Muluka chiefs to ride bicycles instead of motorcycles. And I just find it very interesting because he couldn't say the same thing about his ministers or members of parliament. I think it is presumed that they are a certain class of people or a higher category of people in society that they are not the three they are more deserving of 300 million cars, 300 million shilling cars, and then the Moluka chiefs don't even deserve bikes of what? How much does a bike cost? Like 7 million. I don't think that is a good narrative to sell or give people, because as leaders, you're supposed to be servants of the people. Leadership should not come as something where people are aiming to gain. And also, leaders should not feel like they are special. Because at the end of the day, if you're special, then you're not a good leader. If you feel you're special, if you feel you're more special than the people you're leading, then it means you're not a good leader. So our members of parliament, please, if the Moluka chiefs are not deserving of bikes, members of parliament, I want you to know you're not deserving of those cars. And I don't even understand how you lead people that are struggling financially with the economy, the way it is, and then you're comfortable driving around a car of 300 million. No wonder you always have to move with security, because you're scared that something might happen. But it's because of these things that you do. Try being humble. Also try actually being considerate. And you will see how amazing and how simple life will be when no one is actually against you. So yeah, that is about the State of the Nation address. I think most of what was said are things we have heard before. The most interesting thing about the State of the Nation address is it's how much our government thinks that we are not doing enough to benefit from the government programs. Government feels like we are not taking advantage of the government programs, but many of these programs are not actually helpful to the ordinary person. Like I've said, many of the programs only help people who have a certain foundation, who have somewhere to start from. If government, for example, government can wake up and say, we're going to give out machinery to people to start, processing posho or maize or whatever it is. But imagine, even if we had to go pick up the machines from the ministry, any government ministry, where are we going to put the machines? Where are we going to grow the maize? Where are we going to get the money to buy the maize? So as government, you might feel people are not coming to pick up machines, people are not taking advantage of the government programs. But in actual sense, the program is not really helping the actual ordinary Ugandan who has nothing to start with. So maybe a little more monitoring and evaluation and analysis of these government programs to see if they are actually helping the target the target citizens, the citizens that they are aimed at helping, should be something that the government should consider doing. Yeah, with that, let us move on to the next issue in our current affairs. It's an issue that I saw on social media. Like I said, I am always on social media, and I get to learn a lot of things from social media. So I was on social media the other day and I saw a video clip of a gentleman called Mr. Abraham Luzi. Everyone knows him. He stood for Kampala member of parliament, mayor. I believe he stood for mayor, not mayor, member of parliament, Kampala. And he's a very funny person. So he's always saying things that are funny, things that are, we laugh. But yesterday he said something that really caught my attention. He said he has a factory that where he makes posho. So he has a factory. I believe he grows maize. At some point he showed like he has a huge chunk of land where he grows maize. So I believe when he harvests his maize, he makes posho and then sells posho. So Abraham was talking about he's closing down his factory because he sells posho of 3 million a month, but his electricity bill is 15 million a month. And I want to talk about this again as we talk about the challenges and the things that we face. As government says we are lazy, government is not thinking about these things, where the cost of production is a lot higher than the revenue that you're making from a business. And I think government programs should be aiming at how do we reduce the cost of production for an ordinary Ugandan who is doing business. Because this is a person who employs people. This is a person who is allowing people to access a certain product by having a factory in place that is making this product. So you don't have to go looking for the product or importing it. It is being made somewhere in your community. I don't know where his factory is. But government doesn't care about these people. Because why should an electricity bill be 15 million? Why? Shouldn't government have programs in place where electricity is subsidized for companies or businesses owned by an ordinary Ugandan? Isn't that a thing that government of Uganda is capable of doing? Or are we more worried about what an MP drives? I mean, why? It doesn't make sense really why that should be the case, why someone has to go out of business simply because of an electricity bill, electricity that is produced here in Uganda. And then also, why do we always have these tax incentives for investors from other countries? When does an ordinary Ugandan get any business incentives? The ordinary Ugandans who are doing something here locally. What business incentives or what tax incentives, what ways has government of Uganda come up? How does government of Uganda come up to help an ordinary Ugandan doing business? I do not any way. So maybe, as the president says, we are lazy. We should think about how government programs can be aimed at ensuring that if an ordinary Ugandan starts up a business, it stays in place. Okay? There is no reason why anyone should be operating at should have operating expenses of 15 million and revenue of only 3 million. There is no reason why. And there is no reason why such people should not be helped. And then the focus is always on foreign investors. Not okay. Also, consider trainings for Ugandans, trainings, but also enabling them to teach, basically teaching the ordinary person in Uganda or enterprise overhead costs their business. I already see the government talking about part of what I don't know why, because it's really important. There are certain tools that people can employ to reduce overhead costs. The government does not care. Say, okay, training is fully funded. You just show up. We shall even give you transport and a transport allowance, or we shall refund your transport. Come this training, so that we can guide you on how you can operate a business without spending or investing so much money in it. Nothing. I do not know what government of Uganda wants us to do. It's like we are just going to die of poverty. Anyway, that is, I'll be talking more. As current affairs arise, I'll be talking more about our government. I don't mean to critique or ridicule. I'm just speaking facts and I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm not a politician yet, but I have to share my opinion on some of the things that affect us in our day-to-day lives. Let us move on to the issue of corruption. Corruption, a very personal topic for me. I always talk about corruption. Something that has happened time. But what is interesting about corruption is there is always a scandal and then it dies down quietly. And then we never ask questions again. There is always a scandal. It is all over the news. It is all over social media. There is this, the police. Everyone talks about it. And then after a week or two, it is no more. We stop talking about it. We forget about it. And then we move on. Now, we had a scandal a few weeks ago. And right now, no one is mentioning it. No, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened to all the property that was seized. We don't know what happened to all the money that was seized. We are no longer even focused on it. We do not know what happened to the person who was responsible for this corruption scandal. We have no idea. Even X has moved on. People are no longer talking about it. People are no longer saying anything about it. This country is just so funny because, and just like that, we might never go back to talking about that scandal again, unfortunately. But we always have to pay attention. We should always ask questions of what happened, what is happening, what is going on. Now I'm asking, what is going on with that Anita Among scandal? I want to know, as a citizen of Uganda, I would want to know what is happening with that situation. Who is responsible for it right now? Who is involved? What is going on? It is public. These are public servants. And we need to know. Yeah? These people who work in members of parliament are our leaders. So when a member of parliament accumulates a certain amount of wealth over and above what we would expect them to have, I mean, we expect a member of parliament in Uganda to be rich because, you know, they determine their own salaries and allowances. By the way, should there be any case scenario where a person should sit down to determine their own salaries and allowances? It doesn't make sense. That is like a clear conflict of interest. Because if I have to determine my own salary and allowance, imagine you went for a job interview and they told you, how much do you want to get paid? And whatever figure you say is what you get paid. Come on. So I expect members of parliament to be rich, but if someone accumulates a certain amount of wealth that is over and above the normal threshold, then I have every right to question what is happening, what is going to happen to them, what are we going to do about it? We want to know. Someone tell me Anita Among situation because I want to know. Okay? Anyway, moving on. I will get back to that. Moving away from Uganda, let me not bore us with too many issues in our country. Let us move on outside of our country. Unfortunately, there is a very terrible thing that happened in Kenya where a school dormitory burnt down, and I believe it was 9 students or 6 students were arrested. Girls were arrested for having burnt down the dormitory. 16 students died in that fire, and may their souls rest in peace. And it is just a very sad story. What I want to say about this is, because we have boarding school in Uganda as well, and we have schools in Uganda as well. And we have seen so many, and there have been situations where, schools have burnt down even here in Uganda. And we have also seen situations where our children have been hurt while at school. For example, what happened with Okello, where he went to a daycare center and killed 4 young babies. All the things keep happening, but for me, it's a very sensitive topic. First, because I'm a parent, but also from the perspective of these schools where we take our children. What do schools have to do to ensure that our kids are safe and that our kids are protected? What can schools do? This is a question that lingers in my mind all the time. What can schools do to ensure the safety of children or people's children? Because when a parent brings their child to you, they are trusting you to watch over their child like the parent would. And they are paying money. Sometimes it's a lot of money to ensure that the child is safe and well taken care of. And then they get that phone call saying, oh, but your child now is burnt to death. These kids were burnt beyond recognition. They could not even identify the bodies. And who do we blame? Who is responsible for this? As a parent, where do you go? Where do you point the finger? And how do we say, okay, this school has taken the necessary precaution to ensure this harm does not happen, and has not? When the Gaba murders happened, we were wondering, who do we hold accountable? What the school, was there some kind of negligence on part of the school? I think so. I'm no one to judge, but I do think maybe the security. But you see, when matter, what happened, who did what, there is nothing that would make you feel it less, regardless of what they tell you. So schools, please, I don't know, I think I'm gonna host someone who is in the education sector someday to try and tell us what can we parents look out for to say, okay, my child is safe in this school, or my child is not safe in this school. And also the era of technology. This is the technology. We need to utilize technology. We need to invest in technology, but we need to utilize technology to avoid and prevent certain things from happening. You would be shocked at how much technology can do to ensure the safety of even students in a school. You understand? We have cameras, we have CCTV cameras, not even technology, we have sprinklers, water sprinklers. Should there be a dormitory that doesn't have automatic water sprinklers, leave alone the fire extinguisher, where if there is a fire, then there is going to be an automatic, water is just going to drop and take it out? Is it very hard to implement? I don't think so. It is possible. I have seen it happening. Automatic fire alert systems, where the moment there is even a certain excessive amount of heat in a place, there is an alert to responsible people who will come and check. I've lived in the US. I lived in the US for 4 years. And sometimes you would be in the kitchen cooking, and then the fire alarm will go off. And in 2 minutes, the fire department will be at your door asking you, what's up? Is this place burning down? You have to explain. Actually, we used to run. Every time the fire would go off, you had to run to making that noise, because automatically it was alerting the fire department. Shouldn't that be a bare minimum for any boarding school, especially schools where students are making a lot of money? Bare minimum. In this day and age, we should not be having students dying, 16 students dying in a fire. Schools, please do better. Do better. This is very personal. Do better. If you can't, do nothing. Because unless someone, it can't even take out a huge fire. It can. So you need to find other means of ensuring, and you cannot always overlook the possibility of there being some people who are crazy enough to do the most stupid thing, like burning down a dormitory when their colleagues are sleeping. It happens. It's not the first time it is happening that students are burning down dormitories. So it's not like it is something that is completely unheard of. It happens. But to the students who burnt down their colleagues, I do not know how you live with that. As a human being, I do not know how you live with taking out the lives of 16 people at once. And I hope that the justice system takes care of you. And in the same vein, talking about of our children at school, we have kidnappings in Nigeria. Again, kidnappings where kids are being kidnapped, including toddlers. Toddlers, kids under 5 years being kidnapped. And it's not a small number of kids. It is huge numbers, 50 plus, just getting kidnapped. And again, it takes me back to schools. What are you doing to ensure the safety of people's children? And sometimes things seem far-fetched. But also governments. Now, the government, for example, the Nigerian government or Nigerian leadership, with the kidnappings that Nigeria has had, Nigeria always has issues with kidnapping. Most times it's for ransom. Right now, we do not know why the kidnappings are happening. But sometimes it's for ransom. Nigeria pays a lot of money. Nigerians pay a lot of money in ransom to try and get back their kidnapped, children and, relatives, friends. A lot of money. You can't even imagine how much. Over like $1 billion shillings in a year. $1 billion in a year. Going towards ransom money. But what is the government doing about that? To ensure that, people are not just taking advantage. What is government doing? Again, in this era of technology, some things should not be happening. There are very many ways how we can solve crime, prevent crime using technology. Very many ways. There is no reason why 50 students should, 50 babies or 50 young kids or pupils, whatever it is, should just disappear and you tell us you can't find them. Unacceptable. That should not be happening. So please, African leaders, again, be more patriotic. Love your country. Love your people, the people you lead. Love the citizens in your country. Care about them. Do not care about the things that bring you money, the things that make you look good before your peers in those big conference halls you go to. No. Care about the ordinary citizen, because at the end of the day, you're there to lead, and you're leading everyone, including an ordinary citizen. But when these things are happening, anyone is a potential victim. And that's why we have to speak up, and we have to hold everyone responsible, accountable, as parents, but also as citizens, because you never know when you're going to be the victim. So we have to ensure that we are speaking up and we're not just folding our hands and keeping quiet. So if something is not okay, we're going to say it's not okay. And we're going to call out all the responsible parties to do something about it. So please, we need to change we're going to change now how we do things. We're going to start talking without fear, because this is a space for bold, honest, and unfiltered conversations. This is Real Talk with Salwa. This is an end to this episode. I've said so much. I am tired. But please follow us on YouTube, Real Talk with Salwa. Follow us on TikTok, Real Talk with Salwa. Like, comment, share. and also subscribe. Again, shady photography on camera, and then I am dressed by Ilma Fashions. If you want very nice outfits like this beautiful dress I'm putting on, just reach out. And Ilma Fashions is on Instagram and TikTok. Reach out and you will have them. So that is it for today's episode. Have a lovely day and I'll see you next time. Bye.